Ethan! Sit down now.
I just want to dance, like when Mummy was here.
May I have this dance partner?
The hush that swept across Ravenport, Manhattan's most elite restaurant, pressed against the lungs like a living thing. In a place where a single appetizer cost more than a month's rent in Queens, silence was the ultimate luxury. But today, the silence was jagged, sharp enough to cut. Conversations died mid-sentence. Gold-plated forks hovered frozen above porcelain plates. Every gaze in the room was locked on the narrow aisle between the velvet cushioned tables. 10-year-old Ethan Hale stood trembling in the center of the floor. He wasn't supposed to be out of his chair. Metal braces hugged his thin legs, the hydraulic joints clicking faintly. A mechanical rhythm that felt like sacrilege in this temple of quiet wealth. His small, pale hand reached toward Naomi Brooks, the restaurant's only black waitress. Naomi, 36, had spent 5 years perfecting the art of being invisible. But now, something stirred inside her as a gentle piano melody drifted through hidden speakers. Before logic could intervene, Ethan had a single thought: I want to dance. Sir, control your child. Manager Coleman's voice didn't just speak, it sliced. He stepped from the shadows, his eyes scanning Ethan not with pity, but with clinical disgust. He saw broken metal and weakness invading his pristine dining room. This is an elite establishment, Mr. Hale. We do not entertain the infirm. It is disturbing the other guests. Across the table, Victor Hale stiffened. Founder of Hale Global Holdings, he was a man who bought and sold companies before breakfast. He was used to commanding silence, but now he was trapped inside it. This was the first time he had brought Ethan out since the accident 2 years ago, the high-speed crash that had taken his wife's life and left his son partially paralyzed. Victor had been on a conference call during the crash. The guilt was a phantom limb, always aching. Looking at Coleman's sneer and the judgmental whispers of the diners, Victor felt a wave of shame. Not for Ethan, but for himself. He had brought his son into a shark tank. Ethan, sit down. Now, Victor's voice was a low growl, heavy with the embarrassment of a man who couldn't fix his own life. Naomi's hands trembled, but her smile didn't falter. She saw the manager's hand twitch, as if he were seconds away from physically forcing the boy back into his seat. She saw the pearl-clad women at the next table pulling their silk dresses away from Ethan's braces as if his struggle were contagious. Slowly, Naomi began to untie her apron. Mr. Coleman, Naomi said, her voice as calm as a frozen lake, my shift ended 30 seconds ago. She folded the fabric with deliberate slowness and placed it on a passing tray. Then, before Coleman could bark another order, she turned to Ethan. She didn't look at his braces. She looked into his eyes and smiled. I'm sorry, Ethan, she said softly, her voice carrying across the silent room. But I can't dance in an apron. It ruins the line of the move. The room gasped. A woman dripping in pearls leaned to her husband, her voice a stage whisper. She'll be fired before she hits the sidewalk. The nerve of these people bringing their theatrics here. Victor shot to his feet, his chair screeching against the mahogany floor. Do you have any idea who I am? You're making a scene. Naomi met the billionaire's stare without flinching. She saw the power, the grief, and the deep-seated arrogance. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Hale, but more importantly, I know who your son is. He's a gentleman who just offered me an invitation, and in my world, it's rude to say no. She placed her hand in Ethan's. Ethan took a shaky step forward. Metal scraped the polished floor, a loud, awkward, imperfect sound that seemed to make the manager wince as if he were being physically struck. But Naomi didn't rush him. She didn't try to lift him. She simply adjusted her center of gravity to match his. As they moved, a memory flashed in Victor's mind. His late wife dancing barefoot in the kitchen with Ethan on her toes. It's not about the steps, Victor, she had told him. It's about the connection. Coleman's face turned purple. Brooks, get out! You are terminated. Security! Remove this woman. Naomi ignored him. She spun Ethan slowly. For the first time in 2 years, the boy wasn't being managed by a doctor or pitied by a father. He was leading. His fear softened, his shame lifted. When the song ended, the restaurant remained silent, but the judgment had shifted to profound discomfort. Naomi leaned down and whispered, "Thank you for the dance, partner." She turned to leave, but Victor's voice stopped her. It wasn't a command this time. It was a question. What is your name? Naomi Brooks, sir. Victor pulled a heavy, embossed business card from his jacket, the kind of card that opened doors at the White House. My office, tomorrow, 10 a.m., don't be late. Hale Tower's lobby was a cathedral of glass and ego. Naomi arrived in a modest navy skirt and a white blouse, ironed 3 times. As she approached the desk, the security guard looked at her shoes, old, scuffed flats, and gestured toward the service entrance. I'm here to see Victor Hale, she said, her spine like steel. The guard's sneer vanished as he saw the black and gold card in her hand. Upstairs, Miss Carlyle, Victor's primary gatekeeper, scrutinized her. He's already fired the manager of Ravenport, Carlyle said, but don't think that makes you a hero. People like you, people who disrupt the order of things, usually end up with nothing. I've had nothing before, Miss Carlyle, Naomi replied. It's surprisingly liberating. When she entered Victor's office, he was standing by a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. He didn't turn around for a full minute, the classic power move of a man who thought time was a commodity he owned. Do you have a background in service, Miss Brooks? Or just a habit of theater? Victor asked, finally turning. I have a bachelor's in child development from NYU and an incomplete master's in special education, Naomi replied. I worked 3 jobs because my sister and I founded a program that the city refused to fund. I waitress to keep the lights on for children who have no one else. Victor's brow furrowed. He opened a folder on his desk and threw a document across the mahogany surface. It was a rejection letter from the Hale Foundation, dated 6 months ago. Freedom Steps. My analysts rejected your grant 3 times. They called it an unscalable emotional project with no clinical ROI. The rage-bait irony hit Naomi like a physical blow. The very man whose son she had helped was the man who had been systematically starving her dream. I want you to come work for me, Victor said. Private tutor and companion for Ethan. I'll pay you 5 times your restaurant salary. You'll have a driver, a housing allowance, and total security. Naomi looked at the checkbook. Then she looked at the man who thought everything had a price tag. No, she said. Victor blinked. I don't think you heard the number, Miss Brooks. I heard it, Naomi said, stepping closer to the desk. But I don't work for people who judge my competence by my skin or my apron. And I definitely don't work for people who try to buy an emotional fix for their child because they're too afraid to actually parent him. Ethan doesn't need a high-priced companion. He needs his father to stop looking at him like a broken machine. She pulled a tattered flyer from her purse and slammed it on top of his mahogany desk. Freedom Steps, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. If you want your son to walk with confidence, come as a father. First class is free. After that, you pay the same as the single mothers and the veterans. She walked out, leaving the most powerful man in the city speechless. As she passed Miss Carlyle, she didn't stop. I'd rather be broke and free than rich and owned, Naomi called back. 3 days later, a black Bentley pulled up to a refurbished warehouse in a gritty part of Brooklyn. The neighbors stared as Victor Hale stepped out, wearing jeans and a polo shirt, looking profoundly out of place. He reached into the back and helped Ethan out. Inside, the room was a riot of color and music. Children in wheelchairs, braces, and prosthetic limbs were moving to a hip-hop beat. Naomi was in the center, showing a young girl how to use her crutches to create a rhythmic stomp. When she saw Victor, she didn't bow. She didn't rush over. She simply nodded. Victor watched from the sidelines. He saw Ethan join the group. He saw his son fall, and for the first time, Victor didn't run to pick him up. He watched as another child reached out a hand, and Ethan pulled himself up, sweating, grinning, and alive. A month later, Victor called a press conference at the site of the warehouse. The same elite diners from Ravenport were there, looking confused. Even the woman with the pearls was present. For years, I thought power was about control, Victor told the cameras, his arm around Ethan, who stood without his crutches for the first time. I was wrong. True power is having the courage to follow someone who knows a better way. He looked directly at the woman with the pearls, then at the cameras. We are dissolving the Hale Foundation board today. We are committing $50 million to the Brooks Hale National Center for Adaptive Movement, and Naomi Brooks will have total autonomy, no corporate interference, no ROI metrics, just the music. Ethan looked up at his father. Dad, are we going to dance at the opening? Victor Hale, the man who used to command silence, smiled. Ethan, we're going to make so much noise they'll hear us in Manhattan. From the other side of silence, Toss Stories, where real voices rise and truth finds its echo. Like and subscribe, because the real leaders are the ones who take the first step, even when the room is silent.